Let's define some terms that are used in the corporate aviation world and also in the freight world. So the first couple of terms are terms that you might use at an FBO to communicate your intentions to the FBO. The first is quick turn. Quick turn means that I'm landing at the airport, I'm taxiing into the FBO, shutting down on their ramp, and I'm either dropping off passengers or picking up passengers. I'm taking some fuel, and then I'm immediately starting back up, taxiing out and taking off with minimal delay. So if you ask for a quick turn at an FBO, it normally means that you're in a hurry, you would like expedited handling. You don't have a lot of time to waste. So a good FBO, if you ask for a quick turn, they'll get you in and get you out within 20 or 30 minutes max. The next term is drop and go. So drop and go means that I'm going to shut down at the FBO on their ramp, open the door, drop off a few passengers, close the door, and immediately fire back up and depart without taking any fuel or any other services. So this just means that I'm going to shut down on your ramp, just drop and then go. I don't need any services. So it's not quite the same as a quick turn, because normally in a quick turn situation you're getting some fuel, but drop and go means that we're just in and out. The next term is live leg. Live leg means that we have passengers on board, compared to an empty leg. Empty leg means no passengers on board. Next term is ferry versus reposition. A ferry flight normally indicates that you're picking the aircraft up from maintenance or perhaps a delivery flight, and you're flying it from one airport to another without any passengers or cargo or anything. Whereas a repositioning flight means that you are flying the aircraft empty, meaning no passengers, from one airport to the next in order to pick up passengers and then fly them somewhere. The next term is positioning. So this refers to the crew. Positioning means that the crew is going to fly on the airlines from normally their base out to where the aircraft is overnight, pick up the aircraft and the passengers, and then fly them back to base the next day. There could be some variations. In some cases, maybe the crew is going to fly out to the aircraft, pick up the aircraft and the passengers, fly to another city, overnight there, and then to another city, and then eventually make their way back to base. But positioning refers to airlining the crew to where they need to be to operate a flight. The next term is trip. Trip is the term that corporate pilots normally use in lieu of flight. So trip means that I'm flying a series of legs. It could just be a day trip out and back, meaning I'm flying from my base to an outstation. Outstation means an airport that's away from the base, and then back, or I could fly to an outstation or a series of airports overnight and then fly back the next day, or it could even be a multi-day trip. So normally we use the word trip instead of flight. The next term is RON. That stands for remain overnight, or just overnight for short, and that means that I'm flying to a destination and I'm staying the night there and then flying somewhere else the next day. Could be back to base or to the next destination. And the next term is base. Base refers to where the aircraft is kept and launched from. It does not have anything to do with where the pilots live. So the pilots might live elsewhere, but if the aircraft is based at, let's say, Los Angeles, the pilots could live in Seattle and New York, and then they commute to work via the airlines. They pick the aircraft up from Los Angeles, they fly their series of trips for usually a week or two, and then they airline back home at the end of their duty period. And that's also referred to as home basing. Home basing means that the crew does not live in the same city that the aircraft is based at. So if the operator is based somewhere but the crew lives elsewhere, the crew is considered to be home basing. This is kind of a newer term now. It used to be called commuting more. You would commute to work, and that's still how the airlines refer to it. But home basing is becoming a more popular term in the corporate aviation world. As a result of the pilot shortage, operators are having to expand their searches for candidates outside of their base of operations areas and hire people that live in different locations across the country, and they're referring to that as home basing. You may also hear the term virtual base, and virtual base refers to a similar concept, but the operator wants the crew to live within, say, an hour or two of a major airport that has a lot of airline service so that they can get to where they need to be to operate their flights. So a virtual base might be any number of what they call gateway airports. And these are normally just any large international airport that has at least a couple of flights to a major hub per day so that the crew can get out and operate flights with ease. The next term is run. Run is a term that's used in the freight or cargo world. And this is the term that the pilots use in lieu of trip or flight. So they might say, I have the Dallas to Corpus Christi run tonight. And that just refers to the specific route that they're flying. All right, the next term is deadhead. Deadhead can be a little bit confusing because it's used differently in the airline world and the corporate world. In the airline world, deadhead means that you're on duty as a crew member, but you're flying as a passenger on one flight to get to a destination where you're going to operate another flight. In the corporate world, it often means that we're flying an empty leg without passengers, and we are repositioning the airplane to an airport to pick up the passengers. So we might actually be acting as pilots, but we're not actually flying passengers on the repositioning leg. And sometimes that's referred to as deadheading in the corporate world. The next term is turn. Turn means that we are flying from the base to a destination, and then we're flying right back to the base. Normally all in the same day, and that's referred to as a day trip or an out and back. But it could also be an overnight. But turn just means I'm flying from the base to a destination and then back to the base. The next term is sit. Sit refers to sitting in an FBO waiting for passengers. So you might hear a corporate pilot say something like, we had a long sit at Albuquerque, or we had a short sit today. So a lot of what you do as a corporate pilot is you wait. You sit around at FBOs waiting for your passengers. So a common situation is that you would fly your passengers out to a destination airport in the morning, drop them off. They'll go have their meetings for the day. You'll sit at the FBO and wait for them for a period of hours, could be 6 or 7 hours in some cases. And then at the end of the day, they've wrapped up their business, they come back to the FBO, and then you fly them home back to base. So that's called a sit. And the last terms are per diem versus expenses paid, and a lot of people have dealt with per diems at different jobs. In the corporate aviation world, there are two models of handling trip expenses. One is per diem, and the other is expenses paid or company card. So in the per diem model, the crew is just paid a fixed rate per day that they are away from base. Normally it's one rate for domestic, a higher rate for international, and the crew is free to use that per diem to pay for their expenses and pocket the difference if they don't spend it all. So some people prefer that because if you don't spend all of your per diem, you get to take home the rest. The other model is expenses paid or company card. So the crew is issued a company credit card that they use on the road when they're away from base to pay for their hotels and rental cars and meals and all that stuff. And the nice thing about that is that you're not necessarily so conscious about skimping on hotels and meals because the company is covering the bill and you're not trying to pocket as much per diem as you can. So normally your quality of life on the road is a little bit better under the expenses paid model with a company card, but some people do like the per diem model so that they can collect a little bit of extra cash. All right, that is my list of terms. Let me know if I forgot any or if you have questions about any other terms. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys on the next video.